Just want to thank our sponsor today, Chris Hummel from Powell Jones Chartered Accountants. And Chris will probably be a pretty popular guy in the next couple of months, I would imagine. Anyway, we really appreciate Chris sponsoring for us today. Thank you. If you're interested in sponsoring a particular month, feel free to get a hold of Ron, and Ron will be happy to tell you how all that works. Well, it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce, I want to call him an old friend because he kind of is. Friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Ken Rounds. Ken's going to come and speak to us today. Ken comes from Rounds Ranch, and I'm sure when I say that name, everybody around here knows where that is and what it is. Ken is married to Jerry. They attend Pinewoods Chapel. And he's got the rest of the story, and I don't want to spoil one bit of it, so come on up, Ken Rounds.
So maybe I just might take a minute and open in prayer. Okay. Lord, I just give thanks for this day. I am so blessed in so many ways. I just give thanks for all the provision you provide to all of us. I just ask a blessing on each person sitting here. And Lord, I just pray that your humble servant would just speak the truth that comes through him today. Thank you, Lord, for the blessing you put on my life. And Lord, I look forward to some great discussion, fellowship after. In Jesus' name. Amen. So, I'm kind of a guy that likes to walk around, so that's probably what I'm going to do. As John had said, Jerry, my wife, and I have been married now for 30 years. We have a daughter in Barrie. My son-in-law is also, he's an American. They also live in Barrie, in the southeast corner. And they've got, not that I don't love my daughter, it's just that I love her children even more. We have 3 grandchildren, Olivia, who's 4.5, and Elias, who's 2.5, and brand new Hudson, who's born December 4th. So we're like Oma and Papa, and that's our pride and joy. That's what we love the most. God put a real heart in that. I'm convinced that right from the very beginning, before my wife and I were even conceived, that God put inside of each of us OCD for business. We have, and I'll just sort of fast forward, in 1994, 10 years after university, we were given an opportunity to purchase our first business. We purchased a farm in Elmville area. It was a poultry farm. And we were, at that time, we were not believers. We were extremely driven. And both of us are just, ever since we first met, all we talked about was business. And today, Jerry, we can go to a restaurant out for lunch, she'll pick out the real estate magazine if there's any properties for sale, any businesses for sale. We're the only thing we look at when we look at the news is the Dow Jones and look at the commodity markets. And it's just like, Lord, what is this you have in us? But anyway, that's the way we're wired. And so in 1994, we started Valley Poultry Farm. And very quickly out of the gate, we were just very driven to make it successful. In fact, we didn't have enough money to buy it. We had 5 private mortgages that we arranged and set up to get it. And it was only about, I'm going to say, 3 months into owning it when we had some miscommunication happening and we almost lost the business. And we had 5 private mortgagors that had lent us $600,000. So we woke up real fast to the realities of business. And we became extremely driven and focused on money management and making sure we run a really good business. So we were just really blessed. Even though we were not believers, God was just blessing us big time. So our business grew from Valley Poultry Farm, Valley Farm Market, Valley Dairy Farm, a wholesale business in the area. In 1995, I had a cool opportunity to start a consulting company, and that sort of, I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but that was where I was doing work with some multinational companies. And so our business started to take off. In 2002, we started a business called Rounds Ranch. And so we just continued to add business in 1994. And one thing about me is I'm always good at adding businesses, but not so good at sort of divesting of businesses. And so something happened in 2002 that changed my life. October 2002, I put my hand up and I asked Jesus Christ to come into my life. And everything changed. The way I looked at business, the way I looked at my life, and for 3 weeks, I was broken. I was weeping all the time. I couldn't understand why. I was just broken. In fact, my wife got to the point, she said, "What's wrong with you?" And the way she was talking to me, it was just really reflecting back. I think what God was doing, He took a meat hammer, a tenderizer, took my heart, because my heart was very hard, and I hadn't realized that I'd been harsh with my wife and harsh with employees, and there's some things about just being so driven for business, for success, for money, for all of this stuff. God just started to reveal all that real quick to me. And so when she said, "Well, what's wrong with you?" Like I started crying again because I was just finished being harsh with me, and I just had, my heart got so soft and much more tenderized. And God said, basically, "Ken, so you're a new man now. I have made you in my own image. I've adopted you. You're my son. I've redeemed you. You're now righteous. That old man that you used to be, we're going to have a funeral for him." And little beknownst to me that the old man hadn't quite agreed fully to die that quickly. And that was about to show itself in coming years. But he said, "I've made you perfect, and here's who you are." And I was just so convicted of my self-importance, my selfishness, the pride I had, my identity was all wrapped up in my business, and all I wanted was to get more and do more and build more and get bigger. And when it got bigger, I just wanted more. And that's what was driving me. And it's just like, so God just really started to convict my heart. And He said to me, He said, "Ken, as part of our new arrangement here, you need to be fully surrendered. I need you fully yielded, all of you." And so the way I sort of visualize this, kind of like, I like to be in the driver's seat holding the wheel. And God said, "Get in the passenger side. I'm taking the wheel." And I said, "You know what? That's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm good with that." But I didn't quite realize what that meant. Because I think it probably didn't take any more than, I'm going to say less than a couple weeks before I was kind of slid over close to Him. I was holding the wheel again. And the first thing that He asked me to let go of was our farm. So in 2004, Terry came to me and she said, "We've been working 12 years, 100 hours a week, and this has been our life. And yeah, so it's great now. Yeah, we got 45 employees, and we got all these businesses, and we got all this stuff happening. But I'm burned out. I don't want to do this anymore. We don't have any friends. We don't have any social life. All we got is work. And I don't want to do this." So it's kind of like the vision I had is like I'm holding this rope between me and my wife, and she's holding the rope between her and my daughter, and I'm holding the rope between me and my daughter, and she just dropped her end of the rope between me and her. And it wasn't anything about our marriage, but it was all about just she was feeling the burden. And what had been happening is my consulting business had sort of, this is one of the things that God has just blessed us powerfully because our businesses just keep seeming to do well through, I say, like, "Lord, what did I do?" Like, I don't think it's about me, it's about what are you doing here? So He's showing me some things about myself. So our consulting business had taken off. By 2004, I had written some training materials that a multinational company purchased, and they decided to take it around the world. And so my first stop in 2004 was to visit every single state in the United States except for about 4. And I was there at least twice that year in 2004. And then in 2006, they translated my training work into 26 different languages and sent me around the world to train the trainers. And so in 2004 is when Jerry came to me about the farm. And so I was away from home that year over 200 days. And so you see the burden on her. And I think, well, we just need more. And she's the one that's carrying all of this. So God really spoke to me and said, buddy, wake up. You need to let go. And so I still wrestled with God. I was holding onto the wheel, but I let go of the farm in my mind, probably about 2005. And the farm sold in 2006. And that year, I ended up traveling all over the world. And Jerry, so we let go of Valley Farm Market, our strawberry business, our wholesale retail business, and some other components that were kind of tied to that, and some distribution businesses. And then we kept Brown's Ranch. So it was the only thing that we now had. We just kept the ranch, and that's where our tourism side had started in 2002. And so things were moving along good, and I was pumped. And I said, okay, so now I can just concentrate on my training work, and I'm doing this travel all over the world. Every time I got back from traveling, my wife and daughter would, you can ask them, they said, so what did Ken tell you about? All I could talk about was God, what God was doing. Because I was just like so on fire. Right from the beginning when he first saved me, he just kind of like put this desire in my heart to get more of him and to read the Bible. And I never read the Bible before being saved, and then suddenly I just had this desire to read the Bible. And I even put a self-imposed rule in place: no breakfast, or no Bible, no breakfast. Okay, that was my rule, self-imposed, and because God gets the best time of my day, and it's just like that way. So when I'm doing this corporate work, I get home and say, hey, guess what? Guess who God put me beside on the plane today? I was sitting beside this Jewish lady, and I had a chance to witness to her. And then when I got into Korea, you know what happened? I was like really nervous about how this was all going to work, and the VP turns out to be a born-again Christian. He told me I got free reign and I could teach the guys about Romans 5, and so I got to put some of my Bible stuff that God's really teaching me right now. I put it right into the secular training so I could sort of just help these guys understand that they just have to persevere and reach out and know Jesus Christ. And we're like, this is like so exciting. I'm just fired up about what's going on with my consulting work. And so what I was realizing, though, is there's a slow fade thing that was happening again. I was actually, the old man was rearing his head. He said, Ken, you really like this, don't you? Yeah, I do. I love the recognition that comes with it. I love the identity that comes with this corporate work. And people are all saying, hey, we need you to come here. We need you to come here. And I'm like, this is like really cool. And I get to talk about Jesus. So my identity is, I think I'm doing work for Jesus. I'm doing this ministry work. And it so happened, it can happen in ministry so fast too, where you get a whole identity wrapped up in work and ministry stuff. And it was going on great. And I'm just getting more and more pumped about what God was doing, and he just kept opening doors. And then in 2009, he made a sharp left turn, because I was getting too close to him again. I was holding on the steering wheel, because I was getting my identity all wrapped up in this corporate work and my work, and I have this addiction thing to work. Didn't realize I had it, but I had a strong addiction to work. Holding on the steering wheel, sharp left turn, what happens? He tosses me right to the passenger side, and here's what the message was. 2009, December, your wife has stage 2-3 breast cancer. And you're weighing 200 days a year. She manages your businesses. So here, what I discovered really quickly was, ouch, this hurts. Lord, I think I can do this. I can do this. I think I can do this. So what I realized, I'm a typical guy, a little bit of testosterone is kicking in there. I'm good at best juggling two balls, okay? I'm compartmentalized thinking. Everything's in its box, and I can do two things at a time. So I'm juggling my two balls, but then my wife hands me her three. And then I'm also the primary caregiver for her. And so I dropped 6 balls. And so a wake-up call for me was, Lord, I think I've been ignoring some priorities here. So when you said fully surrendered, you meant fully surrendered? Or you mean I can't keep doing what I love to do, my work here? You want me to let go of this again? You've already let me let go of one business, now you want me to let go of my training work? So I let go. I phoned all of my clients, and I said, I'm staying home with my wife. I'm not traveling anymore. And someone said, hey, I said, I can do some local stuff if it's only 1 or 2 days here and there, but I'm going to be with my wife. So that was a big change. So he was teaching me how to hold everything loosely. Any business that I have, I can't get wrapped up into it. It can't become my identity. It can't become who I am. So he pried my fingers off. And the old man keeps saying, no, you can't let that go. And so I got this old man that's banging on the door all the time telling me you can't do that. And I said, well, God, I don't get this. Everything's supposed to be smooth, isn't it? So this is moving along okay. I forgot one thing I'd like to share with you. God did something else in the meantime. 2009, the year before Jerry got diagnosed with cancer, was also the year that my daughter and son-in-law were married, which was a real highlight for us. So that happened in April of 2009. And in August 2009, we started another business. So this is like, all right, Lord, so I just let go of all my corporate training work, so all my travel was just stopped. It came to a dead stop. I'm not traveling anymore. But now we're into December, and this new business took off like a rocket. And I'm like, God, what is going on here? I think I got my priorities right. I'm gonna be at every chemo with my wife. I'm gonna do the radiation stuff with her. And so this is fine, and so our business is more local, so it's going crazy. And you can probably guess what happened before long. I'm sliding over next to the Lord again, getting my hands on it. I'm liking it. This is kind of cool. The new business is going good. I'm actually being a pretty good caregiver for my wife, and you know what? Things seem to be pretty good. And but slowly there's this fade that's drawing me to have my identity tied up in the success in the business. The old man keeps saying, "Oh, doesn't this feel good? You're getting this recognition. You're getting this self-importance thing again. You got some nice business cards. They say chairman on them. This is like pretty cool." And so this is starting to happen, and without me even knowing it, I'm drifting there again. And so we're through the chemo, and we're through the radiation, and then Jerry gets prescribed certain drugs. She was HER2 positive cancer and also estrogen positive. So therefore, what that means, any of you who have any cancer background in breast cancer anyway, you would know that that's a very aggressive form of cancer. HER really means it's going to go to the bones if you don't do something about it. So she was on Herceptin for the year, and then put her on a drug called tamoxifen. And tamoxifen is an estrogen blocker. And the point is to stop the estrogen so that it doesn't feed the cancer. The tamoxifen threw her into major anxiety, panic attacks, and deep depression. And she's told she has been on it for 5 years. We lasted 2 before we went off the drug. But during that 2 years, there were months, there was one period, 4 months at a time, where Jerry, I'd be probably generous to say she got an hour of sleep a night. Most nights it was no sleep at all. It was a hard time, a really hard time. And she said to me, I can't do this. I don't even have any faith anymore. I don't know what's going on. What's God's doing? I don't even believe anymore. I get these voices saying, it's not true. Like God can't be there. She says, I need you to carry me on the coattails of your faith. Okay, Lord, I've never been here before, so I need you to help me out. And so we were doing the journey, and it's kind of like we were both in the swamp. Okay, that's probably a good way to describe it. And that's what I said, let's just visualize what God's doing here. God is teaching us some stuff, and He tells us we have to persevere. That's what He says. When we face suffering, whatever kind, we have to persevere. We have to not give up, right? And one of my favorite verses is actually in James chapter 1, verses 2 to 4, which is, consider it all joy, brothers and sisters, when you face trials of various kinds, because your endurance will take you to perfection to you'll be complete, not lacking in anything. Sorry for paraphrasing, but so I'm thinking, and I look at myself and I'm thinking, do you see joy in me? Ken, I don't see any joy. I'm looking in the mirror, I don't see any joy in me. And my wife's not seeing a lot of joy in me, and she's telling me that I'm riding her coattails. And I said, all right, here we are. We're in the mud. But what we need to do is we need to trust God. He's got a perfect plan. And we don't know how He's going to do this, but maybe He's going to take you, and someday you're going to be sitting in front of people. Maybe you're going to be sharing with them how to get through out of the pit of anxiety, depression, and this significant darkness that you've lived in. And so we said, just visualize, here's a mountain, and we're going to try and get to base camp 1. That's all we need to do is keep our eyes on base camp 1. When we get there, then we'll put our eyes on base camp 2. And when we get there, then we'll put our eyes on base camp 3. But we're just one step at a time, and right now we're just going to wade through the mud until we get there. And so things were going along actually okay. It was a very difficult time. We were sort of working through this, and one of the things that I didn't realize was happening is I was enjoying the work piece. I still had the work thing happening, but I realized that the joy wasn't in me. And so, Lord, what is going on? I've got this other business. It's going really well. I should be having joy. My wife is we're making headway. We're having some success. And I realized that something had been creeping into my life that I hadn't realized. I'd sort of let my guard down. I was consumed by what my identity, not wanting my identity to be in my business, but there's something else that started to creep into my life, and that was my thinking was getting distorted. And I think that's where the joy started to get sucked out of me. And I'm going to call it sin consciousness thinking. So, and I actually wrote out an example of one of the prayers that I would have had here. And it was more like my eyes were shifting off of God, shifting onto what I'm not. Instead of me being reminded who He made me to be, I was more like, Lord, please forgive me. That's how I start my prayer. Forgive me for being dropping the ball. Thank you for not being a good husband the way I need to be. Thank you for hearing my prayer, but Lord, I just need you to forgive me because I keep screwing up. And I can't get my priorities right, and I'm messing up with my, I don't know how good a caregiver I am. I keep wanting to fall back on my own strength, but my whole focus on my prayer started to revolve around what I wasn't. So my identity started to become more focused on dwelling on, my thinking was all revolving around what I'm not. I'm not able, I'm not capable, and without knowing it, each of you who are parents, if your sons and daughters came home from school and they said to you, I'm getting beat up and kids tell me I'm not good and I'm not this and I'm not that, wouldn't you be grieved? And I know the Holy Spirit had to be grieved because my prayer life had really shifted to me focusing on my sin. Why do I keep having these thoughts? And then what started to happen inside of our business, our family business, we started to have some dissension and some divisiveness and some conflict and some disunity. And then my thought life was just going, I was getting negative in my thinking, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I realized that I'd been shifting in my whole thinking process, and I had, again, my identity was what was exposed here. My identity was shifting from who God says I am and who He sees me as His adopted son, righteous and holy, to this person that's grieving over what they're not. That's how God sees me. So I had to step back and say, Lord, I need you to give me a picture. Remind me who you say I am. And I said, Lord, I can see already my identity is getting sucked back. I think I'm sitting close to you again, holding the wheel on our business and our family business. And Lord, so I'm going to actually share with you what I prayed. Lord, I pray that I want to thank you, Lord, for loving me the way you do, and that you made me righteous and an adopted son. If my identity is becoming the company that I'm in now, I want you to remove it from me. It's a brave prayer. If my heart's becoming divided and I'm worshiping things of this world, money, recognition, then do the work that needs to be done to change that so that I will love you with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. So that was the prayer. And God was faithful because He made another sharp left turn and pried my hands off and removed me from that next business. And God and I had a little talk. He says, Ken, it seems when you're sitting in the passenger seat here, you just have to keep shimmying over and grabbing on the wheel. Why don't we just change this up a bit? Why don't you get in the back seat? See if that'll help. So that worked for a while, but I realized that I was still somewhat of a backseat driver. I still like to tell him where to go. And so now the new arrangement we have is like I'm in the trunk. So, and I'm good with this until I get this control thing right in its head again. But he's teaching me a bit about being fully surrendered. And I'd just like to share with you what it means to get in the trunk. There's, once I got in the trunk, some interesting things really started to happen because I've been so wired at having my identity in business all of my life. And that's just what, it's just mind-boggling. I just had a person phone me about a month ago saying, we're starting a new company, we'd like to do a three-way split, how would you like to become the president? And I'm like, Jerry, like, what's going on? I'm like, here's this, like, am I supposed to get back up in the passenger seat again? I don't know if I am. So I actually phoned and said, you know what? I'm just going to take some time. I'm going to pray about it. And right now I'm not agreeing to do that. Because I'm going to see what God's got. And so here's, I'd just like to share with you some interesting things that happened. 2013 in March, Jerry and I were down at a conference in Pennsylvania. And we were driving back with a CD in the car. And it was Dr. Jack Hayford. Some of you may recognize that name. And so Dr. Jack Hayford was sharing about the importance of being able to take authority and praying over your properties. And I said, well, honey, I prayed in the rooms of our house before. And she said, well, this is bigger than that. This is our property. So we got home, it was the end of March, and I decided to walk around our property. And I started at one corner of our property, and I prayed. Because we do school tours at Browns Ranch. We do all kinds of general public coming. So it's like, Lord, we're just praying for your hand of provision on this place this year, your blessing. And then, we just pray that the truth would come out. We've got lots of secular people coming. They just think this is an amazing place. We just want them to experience you here, that they're leaving saying something's different about that place. And so that's really the prayer. Walk around the property just asking God's blessing and provision on the property. I get a phone call on May the 20th. I was down in Toronto at a meeting. And Jerry says, farm just got hit by a tornado. Is everybody okay? Yeah. But farm didn't fare so well, but everybody's okay. And so what I find out is I get home, and the pictures, so this is the day, May 20th, you remember the day, school in Oklahoma, 122 kids were killed. Same tornado. Touchdown twice in Ontario, 2 tornadoes. One at Browns Ranch and one just north of Honda. Took a bunch of power lines down the highway. I was like, God. When I found out what happened, I was almost weeping again. And it's like, so this tornado, we've got pictures of it coming down, this brand new building that was being built. Guys were in the building finishing it off. It's coming down, and we see it lifts back up. And it moves over and sets down in the forest right beside us and starts coming across the property and went right through the middle of our property, right between every building, didn't touch a building, didn't hit a structure. One young lady was riding horseback in the arena, 4 months pregnant, and someone came in, tornado, and she was just in the way getting down, so she kind of fell the last part off the horse, not hurt. All the fences flattened, 16 trees broken, uprooted, laying all over the place. Whoops. And Ryan, you don't care about this. The only thing that got wiped out, we got this big billboard sign at the front that Ron helped me build way back. 14 feet by 24 feet, had one post standing. So it was gone. God, what is this? Like, nobody's hurt. None of our animals, they were all loose. None went on the highway, none went on the road, and fences are all laid flat. All the animals are loose. Nobody's hurt. Thank you, Lord. Right? So like, God, what's going on here? So this is like, then I start seeing his fingerprints all over stuff like that. And so then the next thing, being in the trunk, is he takes me to Haiti. And we connected when we were in Israel with a friend who's got orphanages in Haiti. And we agreed that we would help out and do some financing to help them do an orphanage. And his name is Dave Locke, some of you may know him. And so Dave is a close friend, and we were down in Haiti, went down in 2013 in the fall. And when we went down there, this is my very first experience. This is the boys' orphanage and the school. And we were there that day, and it's the first day of school. And so they opened school, 1,500 kids in the school. And this gentleman here in the black shirt, his name is Abraham, Pastor Abraham. Pastor Abraham runs the school, 1,500 kids. He's responsible for 155 teachers. He was there at 4 o'clock in the morning praying for the school, prayed for 2 hours, and then he had other people come and pray for an hour. Kids came at 7, they prayed for 2 hours. The school opened at 9. They got 5 hours of prayer before they even opened the school, first day of the school. And so this is now about 9:30. It's chaos. Everybody's running around. Teachers are all got chalkboards, and everybody's going nuts. And one of the house moms comes over and whispers in Pastor Abraham's ear and says, "You need to come quick." So he right away leaves. 1,500 kids, 155 teachers are all just clamoring. He's got sweat running down from running around crazy. And he goes with the house mom and brings back this little girl because she wasn't feeling well. So leaving 99 to go get one, it was just like, God just showed me. It's like, we need to be a people who reach the poor. We need to be a people who reach the outcasts. We need to be a people who have a heart for those who need or are lost and need attention. So Dave's just checking there. We ended up taking her into the hospital and just praying over. But it was just like so amazing. And my first experience in Haiti is I didn't realize 70% of the population is, 80% of the population is voodoo. 70% of the population is Catholic. So there's kind of an intermixing there. And it was my first experience getting a visit with some demonic stuff. And my first time that I had even seen people ever cast out demons. So that was like all brand new. I didn't know what that was all about until it was there. So then we get a call. Dave calls me and says, "Hey, Snyder is sick. He's got sickle cell anemia. We need to go. And we need to do a deliverance right now. You want to go?" And I said, "I'm in. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going." And so we get a call. Schneider is a family that was raised in a shack in Haiti. And Dave was just somehow involved and got some sponsorship. And he's now in medical school, third-year medical school. Okay, taking his exams in his second. This is his second. He's now in his 4th year this year, but last year he was in his 3rd year. So he is in the middle of exams, and all of a sudden he's come down with sickle cell anemia. If you know anything about it, it can be fatal. And very, very serious. And Dave says, we're going to do deliverance. Because I believe that there's some demonic stuff going on. And so we went down, and so I said, well, you've got to tell me what to do. He said, I just want you to pray intercessory prayer. We're going to pray over, we're going to ask God's armies of angels to come and just cover this place. The sickle cell anemia disappeared. It stopped. It's gone. 4 demons left. And I'm like, oh, all in the name of Jesus Christ? Whoa. This is cool. See healing and seeing deliverance and seeing demons go. So that was like, it's like, all right. So gotta realize, Ken's just like this farmer guy from Elmville. Like, what are you doing, God? Like, this is where he's taking me in the trunk, right? Far more excited than I ever could have gone in my own strength, right? So after we get back from Haiti, I get a call that, hey, Dave says, about 3 years ago, the Prime Minister in Antigua, I was sitting there in a meeting, and he looked at me and said, I want you to help our prison. Our prison's overcrowded. We have 150, the prison's designed for 150 men. There's 337 in it. The average cell got 6 bunk beds, and there's 7 guys sleeping on the floor, and they got a pail in the middle. We need to do something about this situation. And Dave says, yeah, we do, but I do orphanages. I don't do prisons. So I get a call from Dave, and he says, I got a guy from Antigua that the government sent to find me. You want to go to Antigua and just see what this is all about? Okay. So it felt like Joshua, because we went to Antigua, and one of the first meetings we have, this is the Governor General, who says, anything you guys would like, I'm going to give you a patronage. I didn't even know what a patronage was. Patronage is like with the Queen, so if the Queen gives a patronage to a seamstress in England, she gets a VIP card. Anywhere she goes, she asks on behalf of the Queen. She gets to the front of the line, you get whatever you want. You're like, so that's what he would offer us right in the gate. What's going on here? Like, they didn't know we were coming. And we got this meeting with the Governor General. The doors just started flinging open. And I have this meeting with this one senior executive person. I go in there and I say, we're just here. We really put on our heart. We're here to look at maybe doing a halfway house. And Dave had, we were thinking beforehand, let's get someone from Teen Challenge to come down. Because if we can get some low end, if we get some people who, in the low end, offenders in the prison, they probably have drug and alcohol addiction issues. So we probably should get some help there because we don't know what we're doing. We don't have any experience there. So Teen Challenge came along with us, and we just sort of said, here's kind of what we're thinking. And so we were there meeting with the chief environmental officer. Her name was Diane Blacklean, and she says, 2 months ago, I was crying out to God, asking to send me somebody. Today my prayer is answered. Thank you, guys. So now we have a program. She's hired 60 of these prisoners. We're working with her. We're working with others. There's a Teen Challenge that we actually I'll tell you a couple more things. So I'm getting ahead of myself. On the Teen Challenge thing, so we met with her, and I've never had this before, in a government meeting, senior government official says, you know what, I have, my husband is an alcoholic, and I've left him 3 times. And I got a brother who's a drug addict. And I think he's clean now, but it's been 4 hard years. And I'm really struggling with that. And I think my husband is really committed this time. And I said, well, can we pray with you? Imagine doing this. After a 3-hour meeting, she's sharing her heart. And we're praying with a senior government official in Antigua. God, what are you doing here? It's like so cool, you know? And so we prayed with her, and what a blessing that was. And so then we went back to Antigua. Actually, one more quick story. Sorry, I'm keeping you guys a bit late. One quick story. I ended up in the prison, and the first time down, and how did here I am, we all get asked, we're sharing our testimony in the chapel at the prison. And at the end of all the sharing our testimony, the prisoners are coming up, tears streaming down their face, walking up, just on their face, wanting to have this relationship with this Jesus guy. And we start praying with some of them, and I'm sitting there praying with one guy. The guy came to me and he says, you know, I heard you say that you're a farmer. I am too. Will you pray with me? I says, okay, sure, I'll pray with you. So I'm praying with him, and all of a sudden, you know, I get pushed from behind, and then I'm, you know, like, no big deal, Lord, I'm just asking a blessing on this guy, and all of a sudden, I get pushed again, and then someone's hitting me really hard on the shoulder. I was like, okay, I guess I'm done praying, and I look up, and all the guards are staring at me, and everybody else is gone. I guess I hadn't realized I was in prayer with God for a bit. Everybody's gone but me, and they're not happy that I'm talking to this guy. And what occurred to me is I didn't realize that we can have our chapel service in the prison, but as soon as it's done, everybody goes back to their cell. You can't take time to pray with people because that's not allowed. So, like, you imagine going up to the front of a church after an altar call and getting people to pray with you, but they're not allowed. And so this was like, oh, my heart just broke. I was like, Lord, this just sucks. This isn't right. You know, they got this heart, they're reaching out to you. And so Matthew 25:40 talks about where we do for these, my brothers, you do for me. It just really hit me right then. This is what it's all about. And so then God sent us to, so right after that, we ended up going back to Antigua, and we launched Teen Challenge there. The government looks like they're going to give us an 80,000 square foot nurses residence. And we launched for the churches a Living Free program, my first exposure to that. And now what happened on Living Free is I shared with a friend of mine, Pastor Kevin Mass, who happened to be sitting here, that we were having this Living Free thing. He said, hey, that sounds like something we'd be interested in. And as of tonight, we'll be doing what? Our last round of that small group. So Living Free made its way into Barrie. And it's like Teen Challenge has been instrumental sort of helping us work through that. So Kevin and I are taking a pilot project on that. So it's like, and Living Free is really a program about helping people who have life-controlling issues get freedom. And we might think, hey, we don't. I don't have drug or alcohol. Well, I have an addiction. It's called work. It's called my identity in my business, my identity. And I'd say the reality is most of us have some type of life-controlling stuff going on. Living Free has just been extremely beneficial for me. I'm thinking as a mini Messiah here, that I'm helping other people, but really I'm getting a lot. God's helping me here big time. So each one of us, we need to just be surrendered, and that's what full surrender looks like. From there, I'm going to share something here on this slide. You see my wife Terry, the t-shirt says there's no high like the most high. We were doing street ministry in downtown in the drug part of Antigua on the island. And there's a whole story I could tell you about the other guy that's there. This guy is smoking dope. And I took the t-shirt off my back and gave it to him. And I said, I want you to put this on, I want to take a picture. So I just do radical things like that. Take the shirt off my back and give it to a guy. Right? So there he is, he's wearing this shirt, no high like the most high, and he's smoking marijuana. And he's committed that he wants to learn more about Jesus Christ. So we did this outdoor service and KBB service. So, this is like some powerful stuff. And then God took us down to Ecuador, and because it's been God, like, I'm an entrepreneur, like, I don't have any experience in this drug addiction stuff. Well, he said to me, he said, you know what, Teen Challenge is struggling. Every one of their ministries needs help on how to be financially sustainable. I want you to help them figure out how to make each one of their ministries a viable business so that they don't have to depend on donations. And so that's what God's put in our heart. And we just got a call about a month ago from a guy who does the global stuff for Teen Challenge. Says, hey, would you guys be interested? We'd like to, there's 115 countries around the world where Teen Challenge is. We'd like you to go and help each one of them become financially viable. I'm like, God, this is like, what are you doing here? And right in this trunk is not for the wimps, okay? Like but it's exciting. It's very exciting. And so we ended up going down to Ecuador as well. We went to work with partners worldwide. And so when we were down there, we went to this poverty conference, and we were learning that I had some of the people talking who were in some of the poor parts of Ecuador, and they said, God is just punishing us, and we're okay. He's made us poor. We're supposed to be poor. We're content being poor. And that hurt. Because I'm thinking, it's so easy. I've been in this sin-conscious mentality where I think I'm not good enough. And I don't want you being there. I want you being over here remembering who God made you to be. And so Jerry and I have a real heart. So we were actually at Partners Worldwide. I actually spoke last month as well with Gary, right? I think Gary's here. Yeah, thanks. And so Gary was here presenting about Partners. So we were down in Ecuador. We have a group of 4 different business owners who are in the Barrie area here, and we're providing microfinancing, training, mentoring, and entrepreneurship training through the churches in a very poor province called El Oro, Ecuador. And so there's one of the guys that we're looking at. They've got some great ideas, and really our heart was really to help them. We were at a banana plantation, really great area. God's teaching me Espanol. I'm learning a little bit of Spanish in a way. But it's pretty overwhelming when I see what the Lord's been doing. So I think my story today, really what I wanted to bless you with and share with you was just my heart of what God's been doing, taking a businessman and transforming him off of his own agenda onto God's agenda. And I'm really looking forward. Hardly wait to see what God's going to do next. But there's some neat stuff happening. And right now, just a quick thing. My wife's cancer is back again. And this time we see it totally different. It's like He's given us, we're missionaries now for the Lord. And how do you get in to talk to cancer patients unless you are one? So He's given us a ticket to be missionaries in the chemo ward. So we have been able to just witness and just bless so many people. We actually got Pastor Kevin to come up once so he could find out what the chemo suite's all about, right? There's a lot of people there who have no hope. No one's with them, no family. And so we just felt And it's really like, how do we look at it? Because we could see that, hey, cancer, if we start focusing on cancer, sharing with the guys at the table here, if we start focusing on cancer, that's exactly what Satan wants us to do. Get so consumed and paralyzed by the disease that we stop worshiping the God who's got power over all of that. And so we just made a conscious effort that, hey, you know what? We're going to worship God. And God, if you're allowing us to do this, and you know what happened? I got way over time. 4 divine interventions, and one is 2 with our families who don't want to hear anything about God. I actually talked 45 minutes to my brother, and then I prayed with him just because of the cancer diagnosis that we had. There's something that connected because my dad died of cancer and he had to concern himself. And it never would have happened if it wasn't for a cancer diagnosis, so thank you, God. So thank you guys for being so patient, listening. Have a great week. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, folks, for staying. And it's an appointment with God here today, so I'm glad that you've been very patient. Ken, I've known for a while. He was very kind in not telling me our sign blew down, because I probably would have been a little bit discouraged there. But now I'm really discouraged. I don't get my identity in the signs, and I'm thankful for that. Ken has taught us today that everybody in this room is just one prayer away from being where we should be, and that is in the trunk. I love that. It is real when you get to the point in your life when you've been through enough, and when you've been hammered enough, and when you've made a lot of mistakes. Somebody said to me once, I think it was my wife, he said, "Oh, sometimes I feel you're so wise." And I said, "That's because I've screwed up so much." And you learn from your mistakes, and you learn from the challenges. I'm so thankful for Ken today, and for Jerry. I'm sorry that Jerry couldn't be here, but I would ask that you continue to pray. Prayer works. God works. He's able. He made us. And sometimes He chooses to make that right very quickly. Other times He takes a while. Sometimes He doesn't do what we want. But I have learned one thing, that Ken's the kind of man who now trusts God implicitly. So thank you for being here. I really trust that you'll tell your friends that this is a place to come and be encouraged. We're not claiming to be better or perfect. We're not religious people. We're business people who have given God the driver's seat. I love that explanation, and I'm thankful for that today. So I pray that you'll all have a very good afternoon, but not so good that you won't remember the God moments, because it's the times that God does things, the little things, that if you stop and think about them, Henry Blackaby says, they're God moments where you need to stop and give thanks. So when something happens in your life that you know shouldn't normally happen, or you just feel good, or somebody says something to you, take a moment. Just quietly say thank you, Lord, for that. That meant a lot. So I hope you had a good time. I want to encourage you to set aside the second Wednesday in March. We'll be getting back to you with respect to our speaker and our sponsor. If you are interested in speaking or sharing your story, I'd love to talk to you. Everybody has a story. You may think, well, I'm not a speaker. I'm not able to do that. Listen, with God, you can do anything.